Welcome back to Lost in Livi. Today I'm at the Howden Park Centre in Livingston, where I'm joined by two of my grandchildren, the twins James and Isla. Say hi, guys.
Hi, Grandpa.
Hi, Grandpa.
We're going to follow the route of a town centre public art walk, only we're going to do it on our bikes. I came across this leaflet online and thought it would be a fun thing to do during the summer holidays, exploring our town and learning something about its heritage and the aspirations that its developers in the 1960s had for it and for the community that would grow up in it. The leaflet lists 10 public artworks, one of which has since been decommissioned, and estimates a walking time well within 2 hours. The route starts at the Howden Park Centre, and our plan is to cycle the route and return here in time for a snack lunch at the centre's cafe. There was a book entitled Out in the Open about public artworks in Livingston and throughout West Lothian, which was published in 2012, and this walk was produced in conjunction with it. Hard copies of the book and of the leaflet are hard to find, but PDF versions exist online. I'll put links to both in the description below. Let's get to it. There are two elements to the first work, which is Florimcultura by Michael Visocci, and it was installed in 2010. The shallow relief wall work inside the entrance to Howden Park Centre is the companion piece, connecting the centre with Howden Park itself. It underlines the historical connections of the refurbished building with the heritage of its surroundings in the Georgian country house and estate of Howden House. As we head out into the park, we pass Howden House, and the main piece comes into view as we cycle down and across the grassy slope.
Florimcultura references the ornamental garden layouts favoured in the Georgian period. The two elements of the work are connected as the four geometric shapes seen in negative within the wall are the same as the larger scale galvanised steel pieces to be found in the park. The design also hints at the patterns seen in the maps and urban planning schemes from the post-war period, and therefore relates directly to Livingston beginnings as a new town in 1962.
Visocci intended these structures to announce to visitors and to passers-by that by going to Howden Park Centre their senses would be challenged. Each of the four sculptures represents one of the four arts promoted in the centre: music, performance, visual arts and literature. The geometric shapes offer boundless opportunities to frame views, the town and its surrounding landscape, not to mention being great for climbing and posing on.
We head across Howden Park to the path down to the traffic lights, where we cross the road into Amundvale Park. In front of the Civic Centre we take the path to the right and cross the bridge that leads to Amundvale Stadium. Going round to the front of the building, we find Strive, the next sculpture.
Strive is the work of artist Mark McHugh. It was made in concrete and installed in 1995. Over the years, rain and frost have weathered the sculpture and the surface has become badly cracked. When the guide for this walking tour was prepared, the statue's future was uncertain.
The sculpture is of a human torso with one arm straining skywards, reaching for that ball. That object, the figure has a heroic stance reminiscent of a public art in the former Soviet Union, celebrating ordinary people striving of excel for the sake of their country and their community. Here is a figure outside the sports stadium, striving to reach for a personal best, striving to excel like the new town itself.
We continue around the stadium, passing the practice pitches, and then retrace our wheel tracks across the bridge into Amundvale Park. From here we follow the path towards the next bridge, named the Bridge to Remembrance. Crossing this bridge leads to Livingston Square, where we find the next sculpture, the Community.
The Community is the work of Charles Anderson and is a bronze statue installed in 1996.
Charles Anderson wrote, "I wished to create something that felt I would embody the spirit and concept of the new town that could be appreciated by everyone. The idea grew of using a figurative group, the nuclear family of the community, the parents and youngsters linked by hands, the continuity of generations. I also wished to give feelings of the aspirations, ambitions, vigour, joy and energy of a young and growing community. I try to create this exuberant spirit by the dynamic upward rush of figures as I engaged in some kind of happy celebration dance to create a feeling of life and optimism.
It's not far from here to our next sculpture, Symbiosis, which is situated just along Almondvale Boulevard in front of the Leisure Centre.
Symbiosis, installed in 1995, was created out of Class A sandstone by artist Madeleine Weiner.
The artist said of her creation, this sculpture was intended to emphasise the symbiotic relationships of the people, the industry, the housing and of Livingston itself, created as the last of the 5 new towns which were intended to bring the overflow from the big cities to a community where they could live and work and build friendship. None of those elements would work without each of the elements being involved, in the same way a dancing couple could not move as a dancing couple if one were to leave.
We continue on along the boulevard, and as we pass West Lothian College on our right, the Windvane Family comes clearly into view. It's sited on the highest point of Boulevard Roundabout, directly ahead of us.
The Windvane Family was created in 1995 from core tin steel by Phil Johnson of Ratho Forge. The tallest member of the family reaches a height of 12 metres and the smallest height of 6 metres. They are sited on a raised mound which is held back by a dry stone boundary wall built in the ancient Scottish style used in the building of dykes, cairns and brochs.
Each family member acts in its own right as a wind vane, with a wind-sensitive element placed at the very top. Each of the 5 elements represents a different aspect associated in the development of Livingston and the surrounding area.
These 5 elements are fossils, the geology and the previous life of the area,
botany and rural aspects,
mining and heavy industry,
the people in Livingston community,
and the electronics industry.
The wind vane elements move slowly and gracefully, appearing to most collide with the body adjacent, but always completing the set of circumference and continuing to follow the path taken by the other family members, dictated by the wind direction.
We retrace our wheel tracks back along towards Symbiosis, crossing the boulevard at the zebra crossing opposite the entrance to Livingston Designer Outlet. Just a few years ago, had we entered the outlet, we would have passed along Cathedral Mall to an atrium housing a magnificent stainless steel kinetic sculpture and fountain by Japanese artist Susumu Shingu. It was installed in 2000. Birth of Sky featured cascading rain and floating clouds. Of his creation, the artist wrote, "Rain clouds bring rain to foster all the lives on the ground. White clouds drift with the wind, bringing shadows and light on the ground. You can see real clouds over the artificial clouds in this space of Birth of Sky." Sadly, in my view, the work was decommissioned in 2019 to be replaced with a staircase offering faster access to the retail units on the upper floor. A case of commerce before culture, perhaps? We crossed the bus station at the lights between the Designer Outlet and the Almondvale Centre. If we had been walking, we could have continued through the centre, but being on our bikes, we followed the path around the outside of the malls until we reached the civic space between the multi-storey car park and the Almondvale Centre entrance opposite it.
The Rolling River was created in 2012 in natural pebbles and ceramic by artist Maggie Howarth. The theme of the mosaic is the River Amman. It's a picture of the rolling river and its banks, populated with all kinds of living creatures. It creates a colourful and natural floorscape and a pleasing contrast to the hard, shiny plate glass retail units surrounding it. Interacting with this artwork is almost unavoidable. We paddled and pedalled across and around it, finding new treasures in its detail time and time again.
On foot, we could have cut through the Almondvale Centre to emerge into another civic space on the other side. On our bicycles, we followed the path back around the now empty former Debenhams store, along the plaza past the bus stances, around the Marks and Spencer store, and along the other side of the centre until we reached the next sculpture on our quest, Angel of Peace.
Angel of Peace by artist Jerry Lynch was installed in 1995. It is a large figurative sculpture of an angel carved from sandstone. Its dramatic prose is a common theme that suggests power, hope and optimism. He wrote of his work, "I chose this theme because I work figuratively. I chose the female from emerging, representing the development of the town of Livingston. You can see that she is not fully there, like the town of Livingston, which will still be growing into the future."
Once again, we follow the paths around the outside of the Almondvale Centre and alongside the Deadridge Burn to reach our penultimate sculpture. On foot we would have returned into the centre, turned right and continued all the way through to the far end of Asda and then out and over the pedestrian crossing by the taxi rank to get here.
Artist Ian Hamilton Finlay was commissioned in 1976 to produce a work, a concrete poem. Livingston town artist Dennis Barnes collaborated to create both the setting for the work and a companion piece. In its simplest terms, the whole project was seen as the creation of a place of rest and recreation for shoppers going to and from the area.
It's this toing and froing of people that is picked up by Hamilton Finlay's wave poem. Everything about the artwork is pushing and pulling our sensibilities like the constant pulling in and out of waves on a shore.
The poem is made with the word wave in 5 different languages: English, Latin, Italian, German and French. Within the script, it incorporates a proofreader's wave-shaped sign, which means reverse these letters.
We read one day, but the correction takes us in reverse. The layout of the poem on the concrete wall allows us to walk one way and follow the words like waves, and then we can turn around and follow the words in their reverse direction.
We don't have far to go for the final sculpture on our tour. We have only to turn around to see it, or we may take the short ramp down to a viewing platform by the Deadridge Burn. Abstract Steel is the companion piece to Wave Pond. By Dennis Barnes. It was installed in 1977 and it's created in stainless steel on a concrete plinth.
In its material and abstraction, it is almost a thing of science fiction and created in the 1970s. It symbolised the new and ambitious aspirations of Livingston as a modern and exciting place to work. Abstract Steel has lost its raw brashness over time and is further tamed by its social pet name of the Squiggly.
But it has reclaimed some of its impact. The area around it has been reclaimed by the resident-driven Deadridge Environment Ecology Project, or DEEP as it is known, and in 2012 the sculpture was restored to its original setting with water as its base.
Abstract Steel is a testimony to the effectiveness of using public art to enrich people's living environments. Barnes, as town artist, was tasked by the Livingston Development Corporation to encourage participation of townspeople in improving their environment. With the hard work and enthusiasm of groups like DEEP, it seems that decades later, this legacy lives on. After following the paths alongside the River Amond and then back up through Howden Park, we returned to Howden Park Centre in time for some refreshment from the cafe and to reflect on our adventure.
Okay, so what was your favourite landmark?
Oh, my favourite landmark out of all 9 that we saw. My favourite was the third one that we went to see.
And why was that?
It was the community sculpture. I think just because it's about community and people working together and growing together and everyone is dependent on the other.
Very good. You shall see it. And now, what was your favourite place? Like where, not like
the sculpture, like the place.
The land.
Yes, like if it
Oh,
was.
are you trying to hint at one of the
was like, no.
particular sculptures that we saw, like the one with the pebbles in the ground, the one that's called
Yeah.
the one that's called what was it?
The river.
The river, the rolling river,
Rolling river.
which I'd never looked at properly before, and that was just outside the entrance to the Ammonvale Centre, with all the river creatures and delights depicted within the pebbles. I thought the detail was fantastic in that. It had everything in it.
Well done. Now, have you seen any of these sculptures before?
I have, yes.
You have. What ones have you seen?
I've seen all of them before.
Oh. Have you seen number 6, the one that we didn't see?
I have seen number 6 because I'm quite old now.
Right, James, you're in.
Yes, I remember number 6. Number 6 was in that entrance foyer of what was at once the MacArthur Glen Centre that became the Livingston Designer Centre. In that foyer there where the entrances all met, was a really, really high domed ceiling, and there was it was like a what do you call it, a fountain, and there were things floating about in the fountain, and above that there were other lighter cloud-like things, and you could look all the way up at it and everything. It was really nice.
Yeah, my favourite was the second one because it was like I was reaching for the stars, and also because it was at Livi Stadium. So.
Well, yes, you have the winger legs.
And what was your favourite, Ayla?
My favourite one was the first one, which was Florimcultura, because there was all the shapes to the missing pieces, so it was kind of like a puzzle.
Oh yeah, mine was called Strive.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Could have been showed by a bicycle.
Thank you. Are we done?
We hope you found that interesting. Thanks for riding with us. Ride with me again. Lost in Livi.